All right, guys, I want to continue here with Unit 6 today. I want to focus in this video on wind energy. So we talked about geothermal in the last video. I want to really focus today on wind. So again, this is a renewable energy option for us. Again, it's kind of like hydroelectric. We talked about moving water, being able to spin a turbine and operate a generator. Well, this is really no different other than we're using wind, the kinetic energy of the air to again spin the turbine. In a windmill, the turbine is the windmill blades. So when those things are moving, there's a generator inside that produces the electricity. And wind energy, what's nice about it is there's absolutely no pollution, which makes it a really nice resource for us to generate electricity from. In fact, if you look at this graph here, really since the early 2000s, wind power has been one of the fastest growing energy resources, probably because it's easy to install. They these windmills don't take up a lot of space, at least as far as land area, and they produce absolutely no pollution, which is a nice thing. Again, how the windmill operates. You've got the turbine that spins. As long as there's air that's blowing, you've got your generator inside, which is connected to the grid, and that's how people can access their electricity. This picture here is showing us a wind farm. This is on land. They have one of these down in Purdue, near West Lafayette, if you've ever seen the big Lafayette Wind Park. And this one here, this is an offshore wind park here. The nice thing about the offshore ones, the wind blows a lot off the coast. So anytime you've got a big body of water, you usually have a lot of wind. Lake Michigan would probably be a really nice place to have a wind farm. I don't think they have any there, but if they did, there's a lot of wind that blows across that lake. So that might be a really nice place to have one. But anywhere you see a wind farm in the ocean, for example, or in a big lake, that's there for a reason because there's lots of wind that blows. In the U.S., I mean, this map here is just kind of showing us where we get a lot of wind current. The Midwestern part of the U.S. here, Kansas, Nebraska, northern Texas, the Dakotas, very flat areas of land. There's not a lot of like mountainous regions that are blocking the wind. So that's probably kind of an ideal place to have wind farms. We'll be kind of right in here. These bar graphs here are just kind of showing us some different countries. This graph on the left, we've got two countries I want you to kind of look at closely. You've got China on one end, and you've got Denmark on the other. So what this is showing us, this is installed wind energy capacity. So for example, China has the ability to produce 70 gigawatts of energy from wind. Denmark only has the capacity to produce about maybe 5 gigawatts of energy. Now, that may not seem like a big deal, but if you look at this map or this graph on the right, it's kind of flip-flopped. This is wind generated electricity by percentage. So what this is telling us, for example, China, even though China, it seems like they produce a lot of electricity through wind, as far as in their country, like all of their electricity, only about 4% of it actually comes from wind. So that means that they're producing a lot of electricity through other resources as well. But in Denmark, even though it may look like they don't produce a lot of electricity, which they don't in comparison to China, as far as within their country, almost 40% of the electricity in their country comes from wind. So Denmark is, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find any other country in the world. In fact, you won't find any other country in the world that produces more of their electricity through wind power compared to any other form of electricity. All right, some pros and cons real quick when it comes to wind. Wind is free. We don't use a lot of fossil fuels, obviously. We only use that in transportation, maybe construction. There's no air pollution whatsoever. And we also don't disrupt the land very much. I mean, if you look at this picture on the left, there's very little land disruption, soil disruption. This picture on the right, where we talked about CST the other day, solar technologies, there's a lot more land disruption here, right? So there's a big negative with that. Some of the disadvantages, this picture on the bottom here is kind of showing you, this is kind of reality actually, but a lot of birds do fly into those windmills, especially migratory birds, big populations of bird species that might be flying south for the winter or flying somewhere to breed. That can be problematic. You obviously need consistent wind to produce the electricity. So if the wind's not blowing, that's kind of an issue. They are aesthetically unpleasant, which means like, do you want one of these in your backyard? They are kind of noisy. They are big. You might have some dead birds laying around. People don't really want to look at them. I mean, imagine if, they said, oh, well, yeah, in Crown Point, we're going to build 10 windmills right next to the square. I bet a lot of people would be kind of upset about that. So this kind of brings up NIMBY issues. Not in my backyard. People don't like them. They don't want to see them. So that's kind of an issue. And then finally, maintenance. There's a lot of maintenance that does need to be done to them. The blades have to be changed. The turbines have to be changed out. Sometimes ice builds up on the blades. Personally, I think the negatives pale in comparison to the positives. That's probably the reason why that wind energy, going back to that graph, we're seeing it kind of take off in recent years. And again, that happens because the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. All right, guys, we'll stop the video here for today, and we will continue with our third video on hydrogen fuel cells next.